Hey there, and welcome back to the mini weekend. I'm your host, Jack. Let's get into a mini. Cheers. So, yeah, here we are back at it again with the good friend and colleague Sam. Tonight, I went with the Cool Mocks, and it's their Mock G&T, gin and tonic, and it's not bad.
Tastes like a gin and tonic.
It's not bad. It's not great. It kind of tastes like
A gin and tonic.
a gin and tonic if it was made with like watered down rail gin, if you will.
But there's no alcohol in it.
Exactly. Not bad. Not bad from the standpoint of God, what is this? If I was looking for, something non-alcoholic like this to drink over the summer, I'd probably go for something else. We have a couple more different coffees to try. We got a 6-pack this week with a margarita and like another one. And again, it's on the scheme of things, it's not great, but it's not bad. What do you got for us tonight, Sam?
So I'm doing a sober October. It's more of sober-ish, but tonight I'm not drinking a seltzer. I'm drinking an Olipop. Classic grape in honor for the Viking fans with their big victory on Sunday. But it does taste like a regular soda, but it's got probiotics or prebiotics, botanicals. Botanicals, isn't that some type of flower?
I think you're right.
I think there's botanical gardens and stuff. Plant fiber. But no, it's actually really good, and you don't have doesn't have the hops to them. But just I'm trying to get rid of like the energy drinks and just the fake sugar stuff like Mountain Dew, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper. You see all how much sugar's in them, and it's astounding. And I'm not your health advisor by any means, but you're putting in like 30 milligrams of sugar down your body in this type of can. This is only 4 grams. So
well, for our regular listeners, I mean, I'm not putting you on the spot or anything here, but for people that have been listening, and I don't know how far back you've listened, we've done a decent amount of like Oli Pops and Poppies on here. So for people that have been listening in the past, this isn't their first time seeing, a Poppy on here. And truthfully, I love them because ever since I stopped drinking, I've been kind of like, I've always enjoyed sodas, and I kind of enjoyed them more on like special occasions. But now I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna overdo it and necessarily drink a 6-pack in one day. But that's kind of like my guilty pleasure now. And exactly, I look at some of these cans, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much in it. So when I found the Oli Pops and the Poppies, I was like, wow, like they're branding themselves as essentially healthy pops or healthy sodas. That's exactly what they are. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. They have prebiotics in them. Take it from somebody who learned the hard way. If you're drinking these, you shouldn't have more than 2 a day. I usually don't have more than, like if I have one, I only do 1 a day. But I wouldn't recommend having more than 2 a day. And like I said, I learned from experience.
Yeah. There you go.
There you go. So that's what we got. I like this. I'm gonna go. I don't know. You've been on enough to know that I think of myself as kind of a drink snob. I'll go a 6-1. It's good enough that I would drink it again, but I probably wouldn't go out of my way to drink it, and I'd probably get a handful of other things before I go back to this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of the Olipops. I just wish they weren't $2.50, $3 to get one of these. But then again, soda is so expensive now. I don't know if you noticed over the last 4 years. Like I remember a 12-pack of like Mountain Dew was what, $4.99, $3.99. Yeah, that's like $10 for a 12-pack.
That inflation, it's crazy.
It's crazy world.
But no, that is
going up in price.
But I was gonna say too, and that's kind of what I like about Oli Pop. And I don't know if Poppies are necessarily that way too, but if you go to Target, they are a little bit more expensive per can. But I like that you're able to buy them individually rather than having to ship $15 just for 5 or something like that. Because again, who wants to spend $3.50 on a can? Not necessarily, but for somebody like me with the podcast and stuff like that, I'll buy like 4 cans for that amount rather than doling out, $50 for a 20 or 12 pack or something. So,
no, for sure.
College football. I love that you're rocking the Minnesota stuff. I got a new sweatshirt for the St. Thomas UNRL, man. Holy shit. They make some good quality stuff, but so I have some questions for you because I know
Please, I have a lot of
the
explaining to do with my 10-2 prediction.
but no shit, and we're gonna definitely get to that. But
at the end of that
for me,
podcast, I said I'd hope we'd at least win 7 or 8 games. I kind of dumbed it down
for
a
sure.
little bit.
Truthfully, like again, I always like to say there's a Minnesota sports fan, Jack, and then there's like sports fan, Jack. So the Minnesota fan in me, seeing that call and everything like that, I'm pissed off. Because on any given game, on any given day, I want the Wild, I want the Tommies, the Gophers, the Vikings to have a chance to win at the end of the game any day of the week. With that said, as a football fan, it seemed to me like the definition of offsides was not clear. And the reason I say this is because if you watch the replay, from what I've been hearing for years, and I'm sure what you've been hearing for years, you just need to have your feet. If this is the line, you need to have your feet behind the line.
Yes.
Your body a little.
Yes. Your hands are over the line. That's not your feet.
So I think. So I think
livid.
it's.
I was livid.
Obviously, you can't go back and do some of these things, but at the same time, I think this is a perfect example of when there's rules in place, you need to be clear and concise. Because if the rule is you just need to have your foot behind, that should have been Minnesota
here's
ball.
The deal. Now it's clear. Now it's just like the Big Ten's like, you know what? We kind of should have done something better. It's like that. It's like Billy Madison. You know that skit where Carl and Eric are like at that function, and Eric's just like, man, I haven't eaten anything at all. And then Carl's like, oh, well, I had some Triscuit crackers in the car. You should have had some. You didn't tell me that. And he's like, I'm sorry. Well, sorry doesn't put Triscuit crackers in my stomach. Does it now, Carl? That's kind of how I feel. Because, okay, we were getting blasted in the first half. Yes, we were down, 21-3 or something at the half.
I turned it off down 21-0.
So the thing about this Gopher team, and PJ Fleck emphasizes it, he's like, we are only like a 30-minute team. We can't play 60 minutes. So, week before...
That kind of him, though. That's kind of on him.
Yes and no. But we were up 14-7 against Iowa at the half. We had, a good quality 4 to 6 minutes of play to end the half. Had a lot of momentum going into the second half, and all of a sudden they flatlined. Now, fast forward to Ann Arbor, Michigan. We're playing the number 11 team of the country. They just won the national title the year before. We showed up flat, of course, but they started coming together. Darius Taylor was a huge asset, especially with, he had 10 receptions against Michigan. And Daniel Jackson made that incredible touchdown catch right before the onside. Mm-hmm. Elijah Spencer, who I got on after the North Carolina game, he's actually turned into, a solid player. The defense was on point. Who was that kid that intercepted the ball, that safety? Robinson. I think it was like Cam Robinson or something.
Yeah, Ethan Robinson.
Ethan Robinson. Hell of a play.
By the way, fun fact. I don't know if you know this. In an effort to getting ready for this podcast, I was looking up some stats for my picks and everything like that, and I stumbled across something for our Gophers. Before I tell you, I want you to guess. I want you to guess where the Gophers rank in the nation as far as defense allowed.
Efficiency?
No, so sorry, I shouldn't say it. So let me pass defense. Tell me where you think the Gophers rank as far as leaders in pass defense allowed per game? Like,
I
what
want to
rank would?
say top 20. I want
Well,
to. I mean, we have a long history of really good corners.
give me give me give me a just give me a number. Best guess
I'll say number 18.
for number one. 5 games in, and I was appalled by this. Now, are they going to
Oh,
be able to
are you
keep it?
talking about? Oh, are you talking about the season?
Oh
Or
yeah,
okay, I thought you were going off like a 5 year stretch or something. It's just like
no,
I mean they'd be top 25 for sure, but
no. So right now, through five
they
weeks
just
in the
can't
season,
stop the run.
and that's exactly what I was just going to kind of get to here. Through 5 weeks into the season, our Minnesota Gophers are atop the nation. They're better than the Longhorns, Tennessee, Missouri, Washington, Ohio State, Penn State, all these teams. They are averaging right now, allowing 96.8 passing yards per game. And that's after
They
we
shut
just
them
got.
down. I mean, they shut them. They just can't stop the run, and that's
No, they can't because
big
I'm
time
not kidding.
Achilles heel, and that's why they are in the position that they're in right
Yeah.
now. They can't stop the run. They can't play a full game.
And the funny thing is, their total yards, only the Volunteers, the Ohio State Buckeyes, the Missouri Tigers, and the Penn State Nittany Lions average less total yards per game than the Minnesota Gophers. So they're fifth in total offense allowed and first in that. Russian, I don't want to count that high on the podcast, but I'm telling you, I'm still scrolling.
So I know it's bad, but I'm hoping after the Saturday's performance because they stormed. They they came with a vengeance that fourth quarter. I mean, down 24-3 and being able to be down 27-24 with a minute and a half to go. Nobody thought that. I was watching the game at Tailgate Sports Cafe with a couple buddies, and it's midway through the third quarter, and everybody's like, "Man, why are you still watching this? Why are you watching the Gophers?" I'm a ride or die fan.
No, I get it.
Yeah, it wasn't looking good, but they started stringing, you know, solid drives, and it got all the way to the point where Daniel Jackson makes that incredible catch with a minute 15 to 20 to go. And then you're like, okay, it's 27-24. Somehow, some way, we have a shot to win the football game. Onside kicks never, going to anybody's favor, but clearly it went 100% into Michigan's because that was probably one of the worst calls I've seen to make or break a football game in a while. I mean, I'm
Well,
sure there's probably some other scenarios, but for the Gophers, it wasn't offsides. Hands
well,
over the
and
line are not offside. The feet have to
but
cross the line. Some people are saying that, well, it deflected off of him. No, it didn't. And then they're like, well, it didn't go 10 yards. It did. It went all the way to the 38. It was trickling in the traffic of Wolverines and Gophers scrambling for the ball. We recovered it, and then you got the yellow flag come out. And that's just like, all right,
no,
well,
and well,
the life of a Gopher fan.
and it's not just that. I feel like sports in general, when the game is that like, and I know some people probably won't love to hear this because I'm sure some people are like, well, it shouldn't matter how close or how, far apart the game is. But if the game is, in my mind, it's like if the game is close, and like I didn't know it, close games in football, a close game is a one possession game. In basketball, maybe two possessions. But like in professional sports where these things matter, like in college football, it matters more than anything now because there's 12 teams that make the playoff and not just 4.
Mm-hmm.
So there's more now that, okay, once you get down to crunch time, so in football, 2 minutes or under, any controversial thing should be able to be looked at. Now,
Gotta be
it's unfortunate
reviewable.
this yeah, exactly, reviewable. It's unfortunate that something like this had to happen for it to kind of heighten, but at the same time, I think it goes back to what I was originally talking about. I think these rules need to be more clear and concise because as much as I hate to admit it, if the rule states, no, it's not just your foot, it's any part of your body, then unfortunately he was offside because if you do look at it, he does have his upper body and an arm over the line. But again, If that's not the case, and it is now, but it was just a foot, then it's like, well, what the fuck? That wasn't offside. So again, I think there needs to be a collective amongst sports. Rules need to be clear and concise and saying exactly what entails with them.
On Saturday, I was like, it's going to take me a few days to get over this loss. I don't think I'm over it yet. But they got USC on Saturday at home. Oh boy!
I
But
mean,
if they can just play a full game, USC is we're gonna have to fuck around and find out of what's if there's any momentum coming from the coming from behind and coming that close. Hopefully that is something that builds on to the rest of the season. But
yeah,
I don't know. Then just get to 7 wins. Because after USC, then but at least they get to go to the Rose Bowl this year for the first time in 64 years.
no
Never a
doubt.
season game, but I know it doesn't count.
Well,
But
I'm looking at their schedule, and
it's tough.
again, I've said this before. I'll say to me, I love your optimism, but I think I go back for myself to that North Carolina
Yeah,
was
no, that's not
key.
more important.
Because the fact that we lost that game, like I've talked about this at length at this podcast. I'm sure I brought it up to you a couple of times. I'm of the notion that a win's a win and a loss is a loss. It doesn't matter if it's 1 point. It doesn't matter if it's 50 points. I personally don't, at a professional level, I don't really believe in moral victories. With that said, I think if you're the Gophers, you have to feel good about how you rebounded in the second half and that you were able to make it a close game to a team that's going to be a top team this year in the college football playoff.
But the game was ours. The game was ours.
With the loss to the Tar Heels and the Hawkeyes, I mean, I'm looking at the schedule. I think they're going to have a hard time winning 5
it's pretty gnarly. So
they're going to have a hard time winning. I don't see us beating USC. I think UCLA is winnable. I think Maryland is winnable. I think Rutgers is winnable.
So, yeah, if we can stop the run, we can already pass, we're going past defense if we can stop the run. Get them to stop moving the football on the ground. But UCLA is actually kind of garbage.
The more they are, and I think we'll win that game. So, I mean, again, looking at this record, I think games that I am comfortable saying, okay, like I'll bet on this game and I put money on it. I'm comfortable. We have 2 wins already. I'm comfortable giving them the win at UCLA. They have an off year. They're not a great team. I'm comfortable giving them Maryland. And then between Rutgers and Wisconsin, I'd maybe go Wisconsin. Nah. I don't know. It's just
so tough. And then they also have Penn State.
You look at these games, you go to Illinois, to Rutgers, you host Penn State, and then you go to Wisconsin. So, I mean, and Illinois is 24 right now.
Yeah.
So you got to go to all those teams. So,
Brett Bielema's program.
I think letting that game against Iowa go in the second half was really unfortunate. I mean,
this game
is, and honestly, as much as I hate to admit it, I think playing them good and again, not encouraging moral victories here. I think for PJ Fleck's sake, losing to a good Michigan team by 3 is a good look.
So for all the boosters and whatnot, rah, yay, we only lost by Michigan by 3 points. We only lost to North Carolina by 3 points. The thing is, they got to learn how to close out and finish games.
No doubt.
Unfortunately, the North Carolina game was a missed field goal. And then on this other side of the spectrum, it was a terrible officiating call. They need to get to a point of block out the noise and just play your damn football game. Play Gopher football.
No doubt. And here's the thing. The longer I've done this podcast, the more I've kind of turned a little bit away from the eternal optimist and, looking at the whole landscape of things. And, the whole landscape of, I'm trying to remember what I was about to say, but I just...
It's just we're still haunted by 2019 and how magical of season that was, and then COVID happened, and now we're essentially in catch-up / rebuild mode / we're kind of a good team. We're figuring out our identity, and it was to the point at that Michigan game where it was in the first half, And I was like, you know what? It's got to be time to put that Drake Lindsey kid in, the freshman, which if we lose against USC and then also UCLA, the Brosmer experiment might be short-lived if we continue to lose these football games. But Drake Lindsey, he's a freshman, and he actually looked pretty decent. So I would be more focused on the next 3 years than instead of the next like 5 or 6 games if they end up, not
No,
winning football games or looking good on offense.
I don't disagree. I want to ask you a question. I don't know if you got a chance to watch 2 podcasts ago when I had Jeff on, because I asked him, and we were kind of in agreement on this, and I want to get your take on this. Should PJ Fleck go 4-8 this season on a week-to-week basis next season? Should he be on the hot seat? Yes or no?
At the end of this season, if he goes 4-8,
he goes 4-8 this season. Starting next season on a game-to-game basis, should he be on the hot seat?
Midway through the season next season, because we go 4-8. Here's the deal: we could be 4-1 right now.
But that's the thing.
You beat North Carolina, but the what ifs, woulda, shoulda, coulda, world victories. If we're 4-8, yeah, it's a problem. But I still believe in his culture. I still believe what he envisions for the team. I am part of the PJ Fleck Hopium crew. Maybe I am, but who are you going to get to replace him? Who is going to wrap around the state and get in-state recruits? Like the number one guy, like Coy Parrish, who had a hell of a punt return on Saturday. Like, who are you going to get? What are the names?
No doubt. And honestly, I don't disagree with you on that. My only thing is you got to, my only thing is you got to shake things up. Like, I understand I understand the saying, don't broke what doesn't, or don't fix what isn't broke or whatever.
What isn't broke, don't fix it.
Don't fix it. It seems to me to be pretty broken right now.
No.
He tried to go get this Max Brosmer. That's not panning out. I get it's early on in the season, but PJ Fleck, I understand he just signed a contract, but if you're PJ Fleck, you brought it up. You can't be living in the ghost of 2019, and you can't be, oh, woe is me with this, fucking playing catch up and everything like that. You have to compete on a week-to-week basis.
As long as they're playing competitive football and they're not getting blown out of the water, he'll be fine. But you can't you can't have a second half collapse like they did against Iowa, because that's done.
But you know what the thing is next year too? Before I move on, I remember what I was going to say. The reason I don't really believe in those moral victories is because you look at this game against Michigan, and we were right there. Right? Well, guess what? As close as we were, we could have done 15 different things in the first half to avoid putting ourselves
in that. That's what PJ Fleck talked about too, as well. So I mean, he understands the whole aspect, and he even flat out mentioned, he was like, I don't like moral victories. I'm not one of those guys that does that. The moral of the story is the Golden Gophers got absolutely screwed at the end of that football game. Just moral of the story. I hope we get a lot of viewers watching this part of the podcast, because Michigan better be, they were feeling a little lemon booty-ish towards the end of that game. Like, they thought they would wipe us off the map at the big house, and no.
For sure.
Goldie and the boys, they came back and with a fury, and we recovered that ball at the 38. We absolutely moved the ball at least another 10 to 15 yards to at least kick a tying field goal going into overtime.
Right. So,
but I think they were going to go for the win. I think they would have gone for it.
Paint a picture going forward for you. So next year, nothing is set in stone other than the dates for the first 3 games I'm about to say. But in 2025, PJ Fleck gifted us 3 wins. We are hosting the Buffalo Bills, the University of Buffalo Bills, on August 28th.
No, Bulls. Are they the Bulls?
No, yeah.
I think they're the Bulls.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I might have accidentally said Bills. My bad.
NFL Bills, but I think it's Buffalo
Bills. On the 6th, we're hosting the Northwestern State Demons from Louisiana, and then on the 13th, we're going to California to take on the Cal Golden Bears. So those are 3 cream puffs that we have zero reasons losing to. But then this is my thing. I think 4-7 is a big predicament to be put in, because I think your 4-7 boosters are telling PJ Fleck, hey, you don't go 3-0. We're going to encourage the 80 to go in a different direction, because then on top of that, we're playing Iowa again. We're playing, we got to go to Iowa next year. We get Wisconsin coming home, but then guess where we need to go? There are 2 games. We got to go to Oregon. We got to go to Ohio State. We host Purdue. We host Rutgers. So, I mean, those are 4 teams right there that have beaten us. Hey, I don't love it. Purdue and Rutgers have beaten us before. I mean, those are 4 or 5 games right there that are could very well be losses next year.
Depends how the recruiting goes, my man. It also depends on the transfer portal. It depends on the graduate transfers. And it also depends on how much money that PJ Fleck has in his pocket that he can send people over, because everybody else can do it, which is mind-boggling.
And
they need to do something about what's going on here, because college athletes making thousands upon maybe $10,000 to $20,000 to $100,000.
There's some college athletes millions of dollars.
It's just, it was better when they lied about it and then they put it underneath the rug because nobody didn't have to hear about it. But now the fact that everybody's making money in college, it's just like, damn, how come we couldn't make money when we were in college 20 years ago?
We did. We just weren't athletes, Sam.
No, well, that's why you sell merch and all that stuff. But
no, I mean, no, it is frustrating. And again, as much as I'm kind of like, and truthfully, I'm not gonna lie to you, it brings me no joy to bring up, should PJ Fleck be fired? Should we let him stay? Because I do like the guy. Like, if I was a football player and I was in good condition, I would love to try going to play for the guy. Even right now, almost turning 34 years old, I would love to go play.
I'm keeping him. I'm optimistic. And until something drastically tells me otherwise, I think Fleck's here for another 3 to 4 years.
Well, but see, that's the thing I'm trying to figure out. He just signed a big extension. Contract extension. So I'm curious what is current. So on March 1st, Fleck, who will coach his 8th season with the Gophers this fall, will continue to receive a total salary of $6 million through 2029. So after this season, that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, like, and this is me. This is a guy that, like, I understand we're not close to even sniffing being in the college football playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we're not Alabama, we're not Ohio State, we're not Michigan, we're not Oregon, we're not any of those teams. We're the Gophers, you know.
I don't.
Sure, maybe once every 8 to 9 years we'll have, you know, maybe a run for something, but I'm just happy we're not 2-9 every year like we were in the early '90s in the Jim Wacker era, and you know, before then.
But
so
very similar, and because my issue too is how long? Because we saw what happened to the Pac-12, right? So how long and how many mediocre seasons can the Gophers have before the Big Ten says, before Peacock comes to the Big Ten and says, I don't want to fucking put a Michigan State Minnesota game on 6:30 at night, and then in 4 or 5 years when you're extending Fleck again, they're like, okay, we have a decision we have to make. We're going to be making less money with Peacock, or we got to tell the Michigan States, the Minnesotas, you got to go. So,
and that's what's wrong with the game. That's what's wrong with college football.
And I understand. I think if you're PJ Fleck, like, some of this stuff, like, again, I have no idea, and I don't like using COVID as an excuse. I hate, like, I don't like it because it happened. It is what it is.
But it opened up the floodgates for everybody.
But it did.
Because once COVID happened, everybody was transferring closer to home. Everybody was able to pick their. No, it's.
But I think
college football does not need a free agent period. They have signing periods, but
see, I guess maybe, and I'm fine agreeing to disagree. But part of my frustration too is with how good we did in 2019, 2020. It happened. It is what it was. But if PJ Fleck was a real deal, and again, I don't know who you go get. I'm not saying, oh, you go get, Peter DeBoer. You go get this guy. You can offer him. You can't, refuse. But at the same time, like, I kind of have the notion if PJ Fleck was a real deal back in 2019, he should have been able to get back to that by the end of 2022. And I haven't seen it as much as I think
injuries played a role too. We had a lot of defensive players that were injured. I think we had running backs injured. Tanner Morgan was in. And then you have to go through the COVID rules. Oh, they have a little bit of cough. They can't play today. 2021, they were still going through those COVID restrictions, and there was a laundry list of Gophers that'd be out for certain games. And it's just what's the point? But I'm glad we're past that. We're 2-3. See what happens on Saturday against USC. Just play a complete game. Just continue to play competitive football, and hopefully Max and Darius Taylor now have a connection of not just running the football, but getting him to catch the ball. He was our best receiver on Saturday, but we'll see.
How many? Because I want to look this up really quick before we get into our picks. So Max Brosmer, good old Max Brosmer, 165 yards, 61%, nothing. I mean, his last 3 games, he's thrown at least 1 interception, 2 against Iowa. I mean, so
first quarter one was.
Before we get into our picks, how much longer do you give Matt? And again, I'm not trying to say college football needs to be cutthroat and everything like that, but how much long? Because again, if you're PJ Fleck, you've got to have the mindset. Shit, if I finish with 2, 3, 4 wins, I need to be worried for my job. So, if you're PJ Fleck, how many more games do you give Brosmer before you say, I got to see what I have in this other quarterback?
No, it's got to be after the UCLA game. Maybe even during the UCLA game.
Okay, that's fair.
Or at least start sharing the workload. Because you have a freshman quarterback from Fayetteville, Arkansas, 220. What do you have to lose? Other than him going to the transfer portal after the year is over, because everybody can do that now.
And the nice thing is when you're 6'5", unless you have string bean arms, if you're 6'5", the chances of you having a big arm is pretty good.
Yeah, so but it will start to be a topic of discussion of, we brought you over here, Max, but this isn't working out. You're just going to be the backup quarterback, and we're going with the freshman.
No, I mean, because and hey, I'm not saying he's the worst. You just look at his first, because we're 5 games in, 62.3 completion percentage, just over 1,000 yards, 1,094, averaging 7.1 yards per attempt. But he got only 6 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. He's been sacked 13 times, and I kind of agree with Joe Burrow when he said sacks are kind of a skewed stat, because it's when it's third down, he's going to extend the play for however long he needs, and sacks are more a testament to your offensive line than it is you. But I had high hopes for him at the beginning of the season. I don't know if you remember. So to see him kind of doing what he's been doing, and just doesn't seem like he's got a lot of confidence. You see some of these quarterbacks, and like the Milrow with Quinn Ewers, with some of these guys.
He's not playing in Division I AA anymore.
What?
He's not in Division I AA anymore. He's the FCS. He's playing big boy ball. So
no, exactly. But I mean, look at guys like I know a lot of people aren't huge fans, but look at guys like Travis Hunter. Look at guys like Shooter Sanders. Look at guys like Jordan Milrow. They're very talented. Half of the reason they are the way they are is because they have the confidence. Like, whether you're in sports, whether you're average Joes like me and you, if you don't have confidence in yourself, you can't expect other people to have confidence in you. So if you
Speaking,
carry that, it doesn't matter where you've played. And I don't see that in him. Now, this freshman could have the most confidence in the world. We just don't know it yet. I don't know.
speaking of that, how about Ryan Williams' catch and run for a touchdown against Georgia?
That was
Because I'm talking Gopher football. It's eating me up. Um, but that
no,
Georgia Alabama game was something else.
that
And
was pretty insane.
seeing that 17-year-old jump to catch the ball, do a twirl, and then another twirl, and excuse me, 17 years old. He's the next Randy.
And honestly, as much as I wasn't a fan of Saban, even though he's gone, still fuck Alabama. Like they've won so much that I'm gonna keep rooting against them until they're losing every single year, which will never happen. But they're a team like the early 2000 Yankees. You love to root against them.
Yeah, but the atmosphere going to an Alabama game, that looks absolutely incredible. I don't know if you saw like the Instagrams or the TikToks of them doing Dixieland Delight. That's the type of college atmosphere that is super enjoyable.
No,
The
that's
Gophers
what
have that too, but then once we start losing a lead, we get disinterested and
you
you
believe.
know, yeah. They go down frat row. They go to Sally's.
No
Go to
kidding. Well,
Blarney's if it's still there.
yeah. Well,
That's
yeah.
a
Like I said,
fun atmosphere.
no kidding. Well, college football bets. Got anything fun for us this week? You actually did pretty well the last time you were on, so you kind of got a tall task to follow up.
So, because I had what
Let's see.
Texas over Michigan,
Yeah, Texas. Yeah, the Texas money line, which I believe hit.
and then I had Syracuse over Georgia Tech or something like that.
Did you?
Syracuse over somebody.
Thought you had Oklahoma and Utah the over 54.5.
Did
Illinois, Nebraska over 42.5. I think
I
did,
thought I
but
had
the other
that week? I
maybe
swear
you
I
had
had
a different one
Syracuse,
that I forgot to write down too.
but the
You,
one that I totally, I thought NC State was gonna give Tennessee a run for its money, and that only lasted for like 7 minutes, and then Tennessee just
right,
blew them out of the water.
blew
It's
'em.
like 56-14, but it was early in the season. So what do we got for picks? I mean, the spread between Minnesota and UFC is 8.
Okay.
I think it'll be closer than people think. I think the Gophers won't win, but at least they will beat the spread.
So you're taking the Gophers +8.
Yeah,
Is that
let's
what I'm hearing?
go. The objects in the mirror are closer than they appear closer than they appear. So yeah, I'll take that.
Wow.
They have a Penn State 27.5 against UCLA.
That's 20 points. 27.5, you said?
27. Not
Let me
not
guess.
taking.
Penn State minus 27.5.
No, I'm not dealing with that. However, we got Iowa against Ohio State. What? So, yeah, we're just going to be talking about beating spreads. Iowa is favored to lose by at least 20.5 points to Ohio State. Yeah, I'll take Iowa to beat the spread.
And what was that again?
20.5.
All right, I like it.
I mean, if Iowa doesn't shit the bed against Iowa State, they're undefeated just like Ohio State.
Yeah.
And then straight pick 'em.
Just like money line, you mean?
Yeah, we're just going to stick with the Big Ten. How about Northwestern dashing Indiana's dreams of college football playoff run? Playing on that intramural field that's not Kyle Field. I forgot what field they're playing on now, but
I think it's a new. I think it's a renovated field that they renovated it and then they named it something new because they had another big donor.
it was
Like,
like Longview or something. Yeah, so those are my picks. We're
what's the money line in that
keeping it Big Ten. Get out there, freaking phones. Nope, won't do that. Indiana by 14.
one? Okay, I like it.
I think Northwestern will. I think they'll just straight up beat them.
I like it. So money line. Northwestern plus 450. Holy crap!
Yeah,
I guess Indiana is 23 and Northwestern is not.
I think Indiana's decent, but I think they'll get knocked out by Northwestern.
I like it.
Northwestern's used to doing those things.
Yeah. For me, I gonna have a bounce back week. I went an atrocious 0 for 3 last week after starting off hot as shit. In the first 2 weeks for you guys, I went 5 for 6. Followed that up with 1 for 3, 2 for 3, and then fucking 0 for 3 last year. But I got you guys back this week. We're gonna get hot with the first pick being Missouri +2 or Texas A&M. I think Missouri coming off their bye, that's going to play a big part in this game for me. And truthfully, I think their quarterback Brady Cook and their wide receiver Luther Burden III will just be too much for this A&M defense. I get it's at home, but if I'm being completely honest, I think that A&M defense is pretty overrated. And I think the only good team that they've played was the first game of the season against Notre Dame, and they got lit up. And I think when you're playing against a solid defense, they just can't figure it out. So give me Missouri +2. A second pick, going Pittsburgh, UNC over 63.5 points. Both teams can score. Pittsburgh is currently averaging 48.5 points per game, despite the Tar Heels losses to, was it John Marshall? Yeah,
James Madison.
Despite James Madison and Duke, the Tar Heels are still averaging 34.8 points a game, just under 35. So just if they hit their averages, that's well over. But hold on. Add to the fact that neither of those teams are good against the pass. Pittsburgh is 93rd in the nation with passing yard defense, and North Carolina is 94th. Look for both coaches to exploit those defenses and give me that overpound that mother trucker.
It's gonna be like a 70-63.
Honestly, I could very well see that being like a 63-60 game. I really could.
Hampton's gonna rush for like 300 yards.
Right. And then lastly, for my third and final lock for you guys, give me Coastal Carolina as 5.5 point favorites over Old Dominion. This is a home game for Coastal, and they're coming off their bye week as well, which is going to be kind of a double whammy to the Monarchs, as Old Dominion have their quarterback Grant Wilson banged up in their win over Bowling Green last week. I think this team just isn't that great of a team with their starting quarterback either banged up or with their backup. Excuse me. Which I think is just what Coastal Carolina needs to actually get their 4th win of the season in their first 5 games. So give me Coastal Carolina as 5.5 point favorites.
Woo! Go Chanticleers!
Hell yeah!
Isn't that their nickname?
That's a team that I wouldn't mind seeing in the next year or two being in the conversation for an at-large bid into the 12-team thing. They seem to kind of have their shit going in the right direction, so maybe they'll go get that head coach if it doesn't work out with PJ Fleck.
I know. Yeah, we could have a whole podcast discussing what's going on with college football, but no.
With that,
I'm on board. Who are the Tommies playing this weekend?
Tommy's got Stetson. It should be honestly a good week for them. They're coming off their bye week, which
they needed. Again, they needed.
I was gonna say we're seeing a theme here with some of my picks. They're coming off their bye week, which I think strategically is good. They started off 1-3, but again, they're still kind of
a newer D1-ish team, so
they're still new. They're lucky enough that they have a relatively easy conference that despite going 1-3, they could very well win their 8 conference games and end the season 9-3.
Is Caruso still the head coach for St. Thomas?
Yep, and that guy's not going anywhere.
I was gonna be like, let's trade.
Fuck that. Honestly, at this point, look, I love the Gophers. I would say I'm more of a Tommie football fan than the Gophers because at least the Tommies I can at least stomach it because I'm like, the Gophers have the talent. They're just not getting it done. For me, the Tommies, I'm just like, look, they're new. They still can't pay players yet. They're still in that transition
Mm-hmm.
period.
But wait till the money starts flowing over to St.
I'm telling you,
Boy.
once that money starts flowing in, St. Thomas is going. Once that money starts, once they are done with that. So I'm trying to remember. It's after. So they have this school year, the 25, and then so fall of 2026 is their first year, the first school year that they can make the playoffs. And I think by that time they might outgrow the Pioneer Football League. Truthfully.
And I think by 2028, 2029, the Gophers are playing St. Thomas for the start the season.
An exhibition game, that would be sweet because honestly, this is probably a hot take, and I'm sure a lot of people are probably saying, Jack, go fuck yourself, go whatever. PJ Fleck and the Gophers better get their shit together because if they don't, by 2030, St. Thomas could be the better of the two teams in the Twin Cities. And I'm not fucking around.
I know. I don't want to see that.
I'm serious, I take this shit.
Yeah, I had envisioned St. Thomas being back in when my buddies were at St. Thomas back from 2005 to 2008. I'm like, how is this campus not D1? Like, it's a beautiful campus, beautiful location, and they have great sports teams. And it's just like, why is this team not D1? Well, here we are. Flash forward 15, 20 years later, and yeah.
We should go to a Tommie game. It's pretty cheap to go to them, so we should
I'll be down to go.
But
one of these days, like the Tommie's Johnny's game.
Not a thing anymore. St. John's is still Division III now.
Oh my God, that is sad.
But anyways, but yeah, it's insane. It's crazy, but we have a good amount of things, to talk about. Next up, if you were in charge, how would you fix the Minnesota Twins?
God, where do you start?
Okay, maybe. Okay. With that answer, maybe let's rephrase that. If you were in charge of fixing the Twins, what's the first thing you would do?
Yeah, you got to get rid of Rocco. He's done. See ya. Goodbye. I mean, for some reason, let's fire all the coaches below him. Fire Rudy Fernandez, fire the hitting coach, fire everybody. They just cleaned that house. So we're keeping Rocco, is what the Twins' dysfunctional family members of the poll ads are saying. Like, what?
I think somebody's got to get by this franchise from the poll ads. I don't know a ton about the situation, but from the little bit I did research today, getting ready for the podcast, knowing this was kind of one of the things you wanted to talk about too. The poll ads are treating this team too much like a business. Now, I understand, and we talk about this a lot on the podcast, that as fans, you sometimes forget, but you have to keep in mind this is a business, so they got to do what's best for the team. But they're treating the team like a business through and through. They're not looking at
treating the fans like shit.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of like, what are we doing here?
You don't make a trade at the deadline. Oh yeah, no, you get Trevor Richards, a washed up freaking reliever from the Blue Jays who was getting blown up, and then you also grab Cole Irvin, who is an outcast from the Baltimore Orioles, who actually just declared for free agency for this season. Yes, we have a slew of minor league players that actually did well for the season, but those are the same types of players that you can absolutely trade to get somebody who has already proven. You could already get a starting. I don't know what they're doing, but mid-August, we were 12 games above 500. I was ranting and raving about Bailey Ober being the Cy Young Award winner because he just lights out. And then all of a sudden, much like the Gophers against the Iowa game in the second half, we just flatlined. We just looked at that schedule and we're like, nope, we don't want to win. Nope, not happening.
No.
Meanwhile, Detroit and Kansas City just beat both Baltimore and the Astros. So
right.
Could have been us, Jack. Could have been us.
No, and I'm right there with you. I'm trying to look back here. I mean,
but Joe Ryan going down though, I knew that was gonna going to hurt them a little bit.
Yeah, no, I
Didn't
mean,
know it would hurt them that bad, though.
September 1st.
We were like 7
we beat
games for them ahead of the wild card.
No, I mean, September 1st, we had just beaten the Toronto Blue Jays 4-3. We were 74-62 on the season. Not amazing, but good. I think
stay on that pace, we go to the playoffs.
I think at that time we were only 3.5, maybe 4 games behind Cleveland for the actual division lead, and I think the first wild card spot. And I mean, through the months of September, 74-62. We ended September with fucking 82 wins.
We lost to the Miami Marlins, the second worst in the end of the season.
Twice. I mean, that's all. Honestly, as much as I hate to admit it, and as little as I know about baseball, the Baltimore Orioles are fucking good. They're a great team. So I'm not, and I wasn't as surprised as that. I think if you're able to beat Miami and sweep them 3-0, there's a chance we can squeak into one of those spots. The fact that we lost 2 of those 3, that's what did it for us.
And
like,
I know it was.
I know it was technically, I think it was the first loss to the Baltimore Orioles that got us eliminated. But let me tell you something. If we beat the Miami Marlins 3 times, we could probably have been swept by the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Orioles. And we still maybe could have eked into that last spot, and we just fucking didn't.
But, I mean, it goes down to from management all the way down to the very low of your farm system. Because there's got to be something more that comes out. Because you have a player, Derek Bender, the catcher, giving off signs to the opposing team like, hey, I don't want to play in the postseason. It trickled on up. Because apparently Buxton stopped playing, Correa stopped playing. Like, I don't know what happened other than there's no excuse. There's absolutely zero excuse. We were healthy for the most part. I mean, sure, we battled some injuries. Joe Ryan isn't, the only guy on the team. We had a lot of our minor leaguers that were Baseball America top 50s. They were showing up this season. Brooks Lee and Zebby Matthews. And we had guys. But for some reason, we just didn't all come together because I think it's because Rocco's out.
What do you mean? Like Rocco's like not invested or what?
Well, he's always been making terrible decisions like keeping pitchers in for too long or not pulling them for the right people
Which surprises me to hear you and to hear other people say, didn't he win Manager of the Year in
2019?
Like, I thought it was 22. Like, I thought it was, like, recent.
Did he? I don't know. I thought 2019 was when he did. I thought it was Torey Lovello that won it last year from Arizona.
Maybe.
Where Texas is. Yeah, but I think it was Lovello. But, yeah,
you're right.
You got to make some trades. I mean, you need to get proven Major League Baseball players that can play in the playoffs, that have proven to play in the playoffs, instead of depending on your Baseball America top 50. Sure, we have very talented players on the team already established. Pohlad can at least get rid of some of the farm system for a big money player, but they never do that. They're pocket pinchers. It's the Pohlad pocket protectors.
Well, but see, and so I guess maybe that answers my next question, because my next question to you, again, I like baseball. I enjoy baseball. I don't understand baseball organizationally as I do like
analytics
football and that kind of stuff. If you're not making trades, is that more on the general manager's position? Is that more the general manager needs to be held accountable, or is that the owners need to be held accountable? Like, who is in charge of kind of initiating trade talks, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, it goes down to what's the budget that you have to work for that season. I mean, our hands were already tied in February when Pohlad was slashing the salaries for a lot of people. So it starts from your money man.
I mean, because that's what I was gonna say. I mean, whoever that was, like you gotta hold that person accountable, because you even look like going into the first like ending the first half of the season, like, on ESPN, they always break it down into that. Going into the 4th of July, like we were pretty steady this year. Like going into the 4th of July weekend, we were 49-38. And then the end of the part 1 of the season, we were at 54-42. So I mean, I have a hard time believing that had we kind of swung for the fences and gotten like one ace,
We
either
needed a
start
lefty. We needed a lefty.
like a starter or a reliever, one of those two, and one other big name like non-pitching guy, we could have been, the real deal, and honestly probably challenged the Cleveland Indians. I'm not going to call them the Guardians because I think that's stupid. Cleveland Indians for the whole thing. Like,
I'm just curious if Matthew Miller from the Oakland A's, if he doesn't get injured at the end of July, if the Twins actually go get him. But
were we targeting him?
He went on. Yeah, he was a lefty reliever, and instead we settled for Travis Richards or Trevor Richards.
Okay.
But there's a lot that's going to be done. I don't see Buxton returning next season. Correa
Contracts?
will be.
Or are we trading these guys?
I mean, Buxton's got to go somewhere.
Well, but I'm saying, are these guys under contract already for next year?
Yeah, I think Buxton still is under contract, and then you got Royce Lewis. Royce has to stay healthy. That's another thing. Our superstar Royce Lewis, like he kind of tailed off towards the end of the year, and I don't know if that's related to his injury issues or what. It's same with Correa. I mean, his plantar fasciitis came back, and I don't know. Manuel Margot, decent player, but he wasn't the answer of. I don't know. They got to do something. They have to make a splash this offseason.
I don't. Well, but see, that's the thing. Like, are you saying trade Correa and Buxton and just start from the ground up?
Correa's contract is way too huge that nobody's going to take on that contract. Buxton is more realistic, and a good landing spot for him would probably be Atlanta. He's from there.
Braves.
But otherwise, you have Brooks Lee, who can take second base. First base, you had Carlos Santana. I don't think they're going to re-sign him. Although he did have productivity-wise, that's what, we expected of him to do for us, but he's not the answer. I don't know. And we have a decent pitching staff. It's just the chemistry from top to bottom is not there, and that showed in September. So way to go, Detroit Tigers and Kansas City Royals. Way to go to win your first, the wild card to advance, and here's the Twins sitting at home with their thumbs up their butts. So that's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah, no, that sucks and it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, like as much as it sucks, there are too many other things I like sports wise to focus on to be too wrapped up in that. One of them being a trade that I was on record saying said player should be traded all the way back after we got bounced by the Memphis Grizzlies in the 2022 postseason. Carl Towns. Obviously a lot to unpack with Towns. First and foremost, I mean, as much as I was kind of like with Kirk Cousins and him, like I was very quickly to call him out. Drafted back in 2015, dealt with the death of Flip Saunders, was here through,
his
the toughest
mom, his whole damn family that during COVID.
16 games, all this. Hats off to him, hate to see a guy like that go, foundational player. With that said, he was wildly inconsistent and too consistent to be a solid number 2. I hate to put, I'm going to sound like a Stephen A. Smith here, but I hate to put this, all of this
all on Cap
fault. But if he didn't get into early foul trouble, and taking questionable shots, we probably would have beaten the Memphis Grizzlies. We were the better team in that series. And I remember telling my brother and my dad, we're going to win the series because even though we're the number 7 seed, we are the better team. And in basketball, in the playoffs, 95% of the time, the better team wins, regardless of seeds, regardless of that kind of thing.
Yeah, we're up 2-1 in that series, too, I think.
We were. Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't get into early foul trouble. He doesn't take stupid shots. We win that series.
I don't put it entirely on him. I feel like he kind of overstayed his welcome with this team. I mean, going into last season, it was going to be like, how is this going to actually work with Towns, Gobert, and Edwards? Like, and it somehow worked, and it got us to the Western Conference Finals. But I feel like it was time. It was his time.
It was time, and it was overdue.
It's a win for him. It's a win for us, and that's all you can ask for. Because, Cat's going to do his thing in New York. He's going to, what you were describing during the playoffs about. Well, New York's going to see that. But on the other end, we have Julius Randle, who is kind of, I wouldn't say the anti-Cat, but he's, Kentucky Wildcat too as well. But he's also injury prone. But when he plays, he's a solid player, and he doesn't have to focus on offense really. But he is an offensive scoring player. But he can play defense, and he's kind of a badass. He's kind of got an attitude. We don't have guys that have attitude. I mean, we just lost Kyle Anderson. We let him go. Julian Randle's going to fit that vote, and he's going to.
Well, that, and we brought in Ingles, I think, to kind of take on that role of Kyle Anderson. The thing about this trade that makes me the thing that makes me very happy about this trade is we absolutely fleeced New York. We fleeced them. We got Julius Randle, who his ceiling is a little bit lower than Karl-Anthony Towns. But just Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo straight up for Towns.
Be good off the bench.
Easily more win for us than New York. Then you add on, I'm looking at this right now, then you add on from New York, Keita Bates-Diop, a third player.
Who played for the Timberwolves in the past, a few years ago.
I thought he was decent. He didn't get a ton of playing time, but when put in there, he looked okay.
Cool.
You get 3 players and a first-round 2025 pick from the Detroit Pistons that is top 13 protected.
Right.
Do you know what? In my mind, do you know what that means, Sam?
We're gonna have we're gonna have the number 1 pick in 2026 because Detroit is absolute garbage.
No, 2025.
No, well, the 2025 is protected, so Detroit's gonna be garbage then. We're not gonna get that pick. But then 2026 rolls around, that pick's no longer protected, right? Plus, it's probably got to be a top 3 protected pick. Otherwise, it is a heist. Because if 2026 is wide open, Detroit absolutely sucks, and I don't know, But Tim Connolly is great.
I thought a top 26, and I was getting hyped because, in my mind, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you see top 13 protected, that means that the very worst that pick can be is 13. The best it can be is 1. Right?
No, that's unprotected. Protected is if Detroit finishes 13th or lower, if they're the worst team in the league, they get to keep that pick all the way up to 13.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Not entirely. So let's say we don't get that pick for next season, because there's no way Detroit is finishing better than 14th or 15th.
No.
They took the gamble to where what are the stipulations on it? Because 2026, if it's unprotected, Detroit could still be dog shit, and the Timberwolves have another lottery pick again.
Right. No, so just so that everybody knows, because it actually just became official earlier today, this trade, because they had to work out the money thing. So the Knicks get Karl-Anthony Towns, and the draft rights of James Nagy from the Charlotte Hornets. The Wolves get Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, Keita Bates-Diop, and a 2025 top 13 protected from Detroit first-round pick. And the Hornets get a bunch of stuff. They get a 2025 second least favorable of Denver or Philly from us, a 26 second rounder from New York, a 2031 second from New York, a couple sign and trade guys, and $7.2 million in cash. The thing that sounds like what Karl-Anthony Towns' contract is awful. We never should have paid him that much money.
There were too many Supermax contracts too as well. But
with that said, the reason it took so long for this thing to get officially through is there's something in the NBA rules that says you can't trade out. Now, as much as, again, talent-wise, Dante DiVincenzo, Keita Bates-Diop, and Julius Randle, talent-wise, is I would rather have those three players 3 years ago than Karl-Anthony Towns. So, like, talent-wise, that's what we want. However, we paid Karl-Anthony Towns so much that for New York to be able to take that on, they needed to send out more money than they were acquiring. And fortunately for the Knicks, they were able to pay these guys that they're sending to us not much. Now, the other downside to this trade is Julius Randle is a free agent after this year. And I don't absolutely hate that. This is Anthony Edwards' team, and as far as I'm concerned, after the season, whether we win an NBA championship or not, I think you go to Anthony Edwards and say, what are your thoughts on Julius Randle? Is it worth trying to re-sign him, yes or no? And they kind of do what he wants to do. Because as far as I'm concerned, they should be getting Anthony Edwards' opinion on anything they do roster-wise. This is his team.
You know what I see happening. And it was going to be, especially if Karl-Anthony Towns was still with us. I thought Towns was going to get traded by February. If we maybe had like the third or fourth position and things were just couldn't get over the hump. Thought we were going to trade Towns.
Yeah, so did I.
And so I think at this same token, was this a high risk, low reward trade? No, it was honestly it's better for both teams.
Mm-hmm.
We could trade Julius Randle at the trade deadline, and that frees up Naz Reid to have that power forward position in the starting rotation. And you add some role players, you grab another draft pick or whatever, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I think it's going to work out for their favor, and it should be a fun season, barring any injuries.
And honestly, I don't disagree with you, because I think if you're coming up on 2 weeks before the trade deadline for the NBA, anything less than sitting comfortably in the number one spot, maybe you take a look at Julius Randle and say, hey, is he playing really well? Because if he's playing really well and you're kind of between 2 and 4 and you're doing well but not like amazing, he's playing well, trade him.
Fans love him.
Trade him and get a handful of guys, because the one thing, and I will, as great as Anthony Edwards is, this is his team. As great as Anthony Edwards is, this team does as well as they do because of their depth. They have a solid starting five: Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert. With this trade they made, the teams in the playoff, Sam, the teams that have what typically do a lot better.
They have a great bench. They have great role players that they find their position on the team. So I'm excited for Rob Dillingham. That's going to be kind of fun to see how he progresses.
I think having Mike Conley to mentor him is amazing.
Jaden's going to get better. It'll be a fun basketball team.
And I think this Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to be amazing. A lot of people are saying he was a steal of the draft, because I don't know specifics, but the low and short of what I heard of it was for most of the year, he was pegged as a
player of the year.
He was player of the year, lottery player. He had some legal issues down in Nebraska or something like that. But then after he got cleared up, like even through that, he was playing some games and stuff like that. Still did amazing. So a lot of people were saying this was the steal of the draft because this is a guy that really, even without his problems, talent wise, should have been a top 5 pick. We got him at what, 17 or 18?
I thought higher than that. I thought it was like 25 or something. But
I mean, rookies aside, you take those 5 starters. I trust Dante DiVincenzo to go in there and play some good minutes. I trust Joe. I trust Ingles to do that, Reed to do that, Nikhil Alexander Walker. And you know who else I actually really, really like? He didn't play a lot last year because there were a lot of guys ahead of him, but I think he's a dog, and I kind of dislike him only because he's a Iowa Hawkeye.
Garza. I love Luka.
That dude's a dog.
I love Luka.
Like, we really only saw him in garbage time because he was kind of our 9th, 10th man. That's a guy that if a Julius Randle goes down and gets injured, Naz Reid goes down, he can fill that void like that.
Luka's decent. I mean, he can fill a void for a good 5 to 7 games. He's not. We're not projecting him to be a start, but he's solid. He knows his role.
Good defense. He takes smart shots. Like, he's one of those quiet two-way guys. He's not boisterous. You're not asking him to take a lot of shots. You're not anticipating him or expecting him to block a ton of shots, but he contests well. He makes smart passes. He takes good shots.
Yeah.
And for a 10th, I mean, you could make the case. It probably sounds crazy to say. You could make the case. He's the best 10th player in the league, or one of the best 10th players in the league. I mean,
you can argue it.
Yeah.
It's going to be an exciting season. The first preseason game, I believe, is on Friday.
First preseason game is actually, I know it's crazy, dude. As much as we're about to get into the NFL here too and everything too, but it's crazy to think that not only are we within the heart of like the NFL season, but hockey and basketball season are right around the corner. Yes, you are correct. The Wild's final preseason game is this Friday the 4th. And the Timberwolves' first preseason game is this Friday the 4th. So
yeah, I don't want to touch on the Wild. However, I feel like Kaprizov is destined for 55 to 60 goals this season. That's my only hot take.
He's insane. I don't really have much. I didn't really want to talk too much about the Wild tonight. There's just not a ton to talk on. But the one thing I will say is I already got a notification that says we're intending to sign Kirill Kaprizov to a long-term deal when he becomes eligible, I think, at the end of this season, which is insane because it feels like we just re-signed him a year or two ago.
They need to sign him to like a 10-year deal. And then you also got to have pieces to build. You need to build around him, but that's another freaking, I don't know. It is what it is.
Hey, Sam, I don't know a ton about him, but this Vikings team, what are we 0-4 right now or 1-3?
For which team?
I think they're called the football team in the NFL. I think they're called the Vikings.
Oh, Minnesota?
Now 2-2.
You know, yeah, I didn't see this happening. But you called it. Your boy Sammy D is on pace for those 4,000 yards.
Hey, I called it as far as his stats are concerned. I didn't see this coming.
I said no expectations, so essentially I'm kind of...
I thought going into this bye week, we would be sitting good at 2-3.
Or 3-2, maybe.
In my wildest dreams, I could not have predicted us having the opportunity to go into the bye week 5-0.
Yeah.
Like, that's just to me.
I mean, it's what executing is all about. I mean, the Giants stink, but the Vikings had a great defensive effort in that first game. And then you come home against San Francisco. Christian McCaffrey was out. However, they have, I don't know, San Francisco 49ers are like built by design. They're always good because of the whole system. I feel like Purdy's an average quarterback. Ayuk's not that great. But it's all about the system. 49er fans, you can get at me later. That's fine. And then third game, I forgot who they played, but they beat them.
And we made them look like children.
Yeah. So, and then Green Bay. And the Vikings got a little ahead of themselves. You know, they were dominating that first half, but they had Green Bay creep back in. Vikings win by 2. But a win is a win is a win, and you're 4-0. Sam Darnold has been over exceeding expectations. Aaron Jones has blended in. JJ is doing JJ things. Jordan Addison is healthy again. 2 touchdowns Sunday, 1 rushing, 1 receiving. The defense has, my boy Cam Bynum, he's got 1 interception out of my predicted of 7, but he also has a fumble recovery as of Sunday. So they're making noise. Would I say they are the best team in the NFC right now?
I would.
Maybe.
Honestly, a hot take.
But I like the Lions though too.
It's only 4 seasons. It's only 4 weeks. But right now, the Minnesota Vikings, and this isn't an overreaction, the Minnesota Vikings are the best team in the NFL. Right now. Are they going to be able to sustain this? Probably not. I don't know. I hope. But right now, even though they're 4-0, the Kansas City Chiefs look like a team that could very well lose their very.
They've had some injuries, and Travis Kelce is too infatuated with Taylor Swift, so he doesn't show up for games. But they also lost Rashee Rice. That's a big loss. Pacheco's been injured. I don't know. What did Mike Tice used to always say? The pieces are in place.
Well, right now, you look at, and again, you look at nobody can tell the future, but you look at the state of the two teams right now, and right now, the style of play for the Vikings is more sustainable than Kansas City's. And the reason I say that is outside of Justin Jefferson, everybody's filling that void. Now that Jordan Addison is back, he will probably predominantly be wide receiver 2. But just in my notes, right now the difference in a lot of these teams is our offense. JJ, like you said, is doing JJ things and will always get that extra attention. But through 4 games, we've already seen guys like Johnny Munt, Jalen Naylor, Josh Oliver, and Brandon Powell making plays and making catches. Like all 4 of those guys have converted on. One of them's converted on a 3-11 for us. One's converted on a 3-7. And one of them, I believe, is actually converted a pass on like a 4th and 2 and 4th and 3. So we're doing this by committee. Kevin O'Connell is, as far as I'm concerned, right now, again, I'm talking right now. I'm not saying it's going to happen right now.
Coach of the year right now.
Coach of the year as of right now.
Quarter of the season, coach of the year.
And we have a defensive coordinator that is never going to leave because the league won't let him be a head coach, and I kind of love that.
But guess who else is clear for practice?
Hawkins is cleared for practice already?
I think tomorrow or Friday is going to be when he's cleared to practice. They got the bye week, and dude, you go 5-0 heading into the bye week. You get everybody refreshed.
This is the one thing I will say. This is the one thing I will say on that. If I'm the Vikings, you got to play the break your knees Detroit Lions. And I say that fully intending for all Detroit Lion fans to be offended by that. Because it is disgusting, not just to the Vikings, how they were going for guys. They were accountable for 3 or 4 ACL tears last year and a handful of other leg injuries. It is appalling to me that Dan Campbell is not being fucking investigated right now, and I'm not being dead serious. Fucking bounty game. Look into it. Anyways, I digress.
What about all the undocumented injuries that do happen on the football field they don't talk about? That number could feel a little bit higher. But
no, exactly.
I understand what you're saying because, yes, they play hard, smash mouth football, and, people get hurt.
But hard smash mouth, like I get hard smash mouth football going for guys' knees is going for guys'
Like,
knees.
I'm not a Detroit Lions apologist, but it's just like
No, and I get it. But all I'm saying is you can play smash mouth defense and be the bad boys of Detroit if you want, without going for guys' legs.
yeah.
Like
I
without
mean,
going
so when
like
when do the
showing
Vikings? When do the Vikes play them?
so we played. So that's what I was gonna say. So that's kind of why I brought that up. If you're the Vikings, I got no problem with us activating him now because I didn't hear that he was cleared for practice. I
Mhm.
heard we were opening up his 21-day window to activate him.
Yeah, so that's probably the deal. But he is cleared to practice, from what I've
If
heard.
if Quicey, if Spielman, no fuck Spielman, if Quicey, Kevin O'Connell, if our guys are smart, which I believe they are, they will wait to play him until the Thursday night football game against the LA Rams because that Detroit Lions game isn't necessarily a must win for us. Even if we go into that game 5-0, I think we can afford to lose that game and still be in a position to fight for the fight
Number
division.
one
But
seed, get that bye, because the number two would just play the regular wild card round. You got to fight for that
no,
number
for sure.
one.
And I think the biggest thing that has me most excited about this team is our ability to play as well as we have this early in the season, still with injuries. We beat the New York Giants. We beat the New York Giants without Jordan Addison for half the game and with
Mhm.
no TJ Hawkinson for one quarter, the most important quarter, the fourth quarter. Sam Darnold single-handedly beat the San Francisco 49ers without JJ, without Addison, without TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, it's a complete football team. It's fun to watch. I mean, I've seen see being a Minnesotan and seeing the Minnesota Vikings throughout all the years. I'm still not one to, oh my God, it's happening.
No, and as you should. I am very much of the
Um,
mindset. I am very much of the
just
mindset. If you're a Minnesota Vikings fan, enjoy it. There
just take
aren't
it
very
game
many.
by game, because you could start off 6-0 and not even make the playoffs, like what happened in
No doubt,
2003. So
no doubt. But if you're my only thing, Vikings fans out there, enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with enjoying this. It's not very often you start 4-0. Take the wins when you get them. But again, like Sam just said, don't get ahead of yourself. We still got to take this game by game. So until Sunday happens, be on cloud fucking 9. Enjoy this. Tell everybody we're going to win the Super Bowl. Come Sunday, go back to taking it game by game because anything can happen.
I just want to see that team end the Super Bowl. I don't care about winning, just to see, you have your Super Bowl parties, and it's like, yeah, the Vikings are playing. It's like, cool, dude. Never,
Right.
never, never got to experience that. Only as a Green Bay fan. I'm a flip flopper.
God, burning hell.
Only,
I'm just kidding.
only sports, so I'll be a flip flopper. You heard it there. But
Um,
no, I'm excited for them. That's great start, and now they're off to London
the London man.
against
Was that Australian?
Sir Rogers of Erin against the New York Jets.
Who I predicted it. They look very mid. They do not
They,
look great.
yeah, they don't have an established running game, but I think they're starting to figure out maybe the Brees Hall, Braylon Allen connect, but it's still too early, and they're just right now a mixed bag of things. I do see the Vikings pulling off that win.
Mm-hmm.
The Jets don't seem that great.
Nope.
I mean, maybe they'll get a playoff spot, but this is not. It's not a championship Jets team. They're
Have
a land of
which
dysfunction a little bit.
which is insane because the two teams that every fucking analyst that I could find before the season were raving about that were saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, they're going to go to the AFC Championship, they're going to go to the NFC Championship game were the New York Jets and the Chicago Bears. And lo and behold, both dog shit.
Whoever is, I think we need to take their position if that's the case, because that was not in. Well, I think the Jets were going to be all right, yeah, but it's not Super Bowl contender, all right.
I just think relying on a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers, as good as he is, and hey, I've been on record saying that since he's left the Packers, I respect him a lot more. Like, I think he's a good guy. I think the way that organization, because they don't have an owner, handled his ability to talk to the media and stuff like that, made the illusion that he was just a dick and an asshole. When in reality, he's not. He's actually a really, really good.
He's just a realist, and he knows too much, and people get pissed off at that. And
no doubt.
But if he's not the quarterback and Zach Wilson still was, that team's over.
No doubt. I think the other part of it is I think a guy that's coming off an Achilles injury, as good as he has been in the past, to trust him to bring you a Super Bowl at 4 years old as an immobile quarterback that's been sacked 10 times in the first 4 games, a guy that's already thrown a pick in his first 4 games, like, it's usually unheard of for him to throw a pick before the last week in October. Like, he's so good, as much as I hate to admit it, with him being a Packer fan for someone, or a Packer quarterback for someone to use. He's so good at, if the pass is not there, run for a couple yards, throw it, and don't take those negative bad plays.
Yeah, just throw the ball out of bounds. Yeah, that's what comes with experience. But we'll see. It's still got a long way to go.
No doubt. Picks for our Vikings. One of the things I was going to bring up before this game, I mean, we kind of dissected it a little bit here, but the Vikings, believe it or not, for the first time, are actually favored in a game against the Jets. They're 2.5-point favorites. I think, and honestly, the way I would bet this game is just take us against the spread. I think there's no way we win another close 1 or 2 point game. We'll win by at least, I think, 4 points. But before I get too much into the actual game of it, there are a couple tidbits betting-wise in regards to this game that I wanted to bring up. For the Jets, they are 4-10 in their last 14 games against the spread, and 7-1 in their last 9 matchups against NFC opponents against the spread. One thing to note. Then on the flip side of things, the Vikings are a perfect 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 games against AFC East opponents, and are 8-1 straight up, not against the spread, just 8-1 wins losses in their last 9 games. And then, in my mind, you add the fact that even though they're in London, not only are they one of the most popular teams in there, but they're also perfect 3-0 in London games.
Yeah, so what's with that? So 2.5 points. Do they think it's going to be like 15-12 or something?
Say that again?
Like, what's with the 2.5 points? Like, what is it going to be? 15-12, 14-12?
So 2.5 points essentially means that if you're going to bet the Vikings at 2.5 points, the Vikings have to win by 3 points or more for your bet to win.
Right. And that's how close the spread is
right now, which is mind-blowing to me, because these odd makers are still disrespecting the Vikings. I mean, sure, we only beat the Packers by 2 points, but look at their schedule. They beat, like it or not, the NFL sucks the teat of the San Francisco 49ers and the Houston Texans.
I see points that have, yeah.
We beat the San Francisco
by 10.
We beat the San Francisco 49ers by 6 points, and a team that a lot of people have going to the AFC Championship game, we made them look like idiots. We beat them 34-7. 34-7. Mm-hmm. And the Houston Texans were favored in that game. So, take the points. I like it. I think for me, kind of getting into this game, I know a lot of people are saying, the Jets are just coming off of a bad game. And in Rodgers standards, this tends to mean he lights it up the next game. But once again, 40 years old, coming off an Achilles injury. He's immobile. A guy that's barely completing. I know 4 weeks into the season, small sample size, but for him, this isn't good. He's completing barely 64% of his passes. He's already taken 10 sacks in the first 4 games.
Players can't catch the ball.
But, exactly. The supporting cast is not there. He's got 6 pass catchers, 6 or more incompletions / drops already, and Wilson is leading the way with 14.
Yeah.
So,
and it's he's got to just keep throwing the ball to Lazard, and he's got to figure out how to get Breece Hall open looks in the flats. And I don't know, but it might be ugly for the Jets in London on Sunday.
Do a great job. And one thing Rodgers has got to be like, I don't disagree with you on that. The one thing the Vikings do a great job of is making those checkdowns look appealing. Then the second you do it, they got 3 guys there ready to tackle them right at the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
Which brings me to my next point. Both of these teams do have both great defenses. The Jets are currently second in the Jets defense are second in the league in passing yards allowed per game, while the Vikings are second in rushing yards allowed per game and only fourth in points allowed per game. So truthfully, it could end up being pretty low scoring, and I thought about betting this the over under at 40.5. But at the same time, a 21-20 game, which is still kind of low scoring, it's considered low scoring, would beat that spread. So, or that over under. So I'm staying away from the over under. Just take 2.5 points. But we talked about this earlier. The difference in this game will be our offense. As great as this Jets defense is, I think we've just shown we have too many weapons that aren't named Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. We've seen guys like Johnny Munt, Jalen Naylor, Josh Oliver, and Brandon Powell making big catches. They don't have 20 catches like all these stud receivers do, but those 4 guys I just rattled off have helped us convert on a big 3rd down or a big 4th down to get us a first down.
For Aaron Jones?
Aaron Jones, too. And even Ty Chandler. Both of those guys have caught all of them. I'm kind of talking about like receivers.
Yeah.
But so is he. And, I think that's a good problem to have because JJ will always, always, always get that extra attention. And now that Jordan Addison's back, so will he. So I think with that, it really is going to allow our tight ends who are not Hawkinson and our 3rd, 4th, and 5th receivers to make plays. And so far, they've shown that we can do that. I still think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game, but I got us winning 21-10.
I think it's going to be a shootout in London.
Let's see.
It'll be like 38-27.
38-27. I like it.
Give the people what they want, some offense.
Really? I like it. What about this? My offensive bold prediction, Sam Darnold throws for over 300 yards for the first time this season. He's gotten close last game and against the Texans. I can't remember which one was 265, one was 275. I think he lights it up.
Okay.
I think he lights it up. And then on the defensive side, Mr. Aaron Rodgers is getting picked not once.
Not twice.
No, 2 times. He'll get picked off 2 times.
Not 3. Okay. Twice.
If we pick him off 3, 4, or 5 times, I'm considering that a win.
I need Cam Bynum to get an interception, so that will put him at 2 for the season.
I like that.
That's my bold prediction of 7.
Well, and I want to get to yours, but so that all of my stuff is kind of together and your stuff is together too. My lock of the week, the Niners are 7.5 favorites over the Cardinals, which is the biggest spread in games this week, which kind of amazes me and is a testament to, I think, how much parity there is in the league this year. And I don't think a lot of people thought it was going to be this way, which is, I think, kind of fun. I think San Fran has Purdy revved up as a downfield passer right now with more deep weapons with Ayuk, Kittle, and Jennings has been proving himself. I think Arizona's defense just can't stop the run, as the Commanders ran for almost 200 yards on them, and I just don't see them slowing down another offense that can spread the ball in the middle of the field. Plus, Kyler Murray is obviously slumping. Seeing Nick Bosa and the crew on the road will not help them. Niners will win 31-14. And those that have been watching for a while, I know I made the Cardinals sin last week picking the Jets for the second time as my lock. In my defense, I thought I had picked them already this season as my upset. So I was like, I like them as a favorite in this. I was fucking wrong. So karma came for me.
Happens.
Karma came for me. The Jets did win their first game that I picked them in, but last week when I picked them for the second time, not knowing it was the second time, they lost. So karma got me. We're gonna get back on track here. And then lastly, for my upset of the week, I know I already had them as my lock, which is kind of embarrassing because they did win that game. But I like the Cincinnati Bengals as 2.5-point underdogs this week against the Ravens. Honestly, I know Harbaugh's probably already dreaming about throwing Derrick Henry down the throats of this 25th ranked rush defense. But I think last week, Burrow finally led this team to a win. Yes, got the monkey off his back. Yes, I understand it was against the Carolina Panthers, but we've already talked about this. A win is a win. Doesn't matter who you win. It doesn't matter who you beat. It doesn't matter who you lose to. 50 points one way or the other. A win's a win. T. Higgins looked good. Gesicki good looked. And that Andrea, I'm not even going to say his last name, the Hawaiian dude looked amazing. And then obviously to go around with Jamar Chase.
So it's like Aieva, their wide receiver.
Aieva, yeah, something. Plus, I think the Ravens, despite how good they've been so far, have given up a lot of big pass plays. So look for Burrow to air it out to Jamar Chase and those boys. So I actually like the Bengals to win this game outright. Go 34-30 and get right back into the thick of things in the AFC with 2-3 record going into week 5.
Yeah, Bengals need a win. I mean, people were saying that they were going to be Super Bowl contenders, and losing this week would not be good.
No, they got a lot of work to do. Sorry, before you go, the last thing I'll say, they got a lot of work to do, but I think this team went healthy, and when they're clicking, they're just as good as anybody else in the AFC.
All right, well, first game, 43.5 between the Commies and the Browns. I'm on board with the Jayden Daniels show going for the rest of the season. I think there's going to be more points involved. I think Cleveland will be able to expose Washington's defense a little bit, but I still think Washington comes out, which would put Washington 4-1. But I think there's definitely going to be more than 43.5 points. I think it's going to be like 34-27. Washington.
Nice. I don't mind that. I see Washington putting some points up. I think a lot of points. Hopefully Washington can account for a lot of those because that Cleveland team is dog shit.
And Seattle over the Giants, that's 6.5. They really think the Giants are going to be that close in Seattle? 6.5.
6.5, really?
Yeah. Seahawks bounce back. They beat them, they beat them by like 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I mean, the game's in Seattle.
Yeah.
If it was at New York, I'd maybe have the line a little bit closer, like Seattle 2.5, maybe.
The Giants are gonna.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think I'm a little surprised that line's not bigger, just with how poor New York is doing. I think part of maybe what the bets or the bet makers were thinking, where they're just coming off of a win against Cleveland and maybe giving them some respect that they don't want to give the Vikings. But 6.5 seems fine. I think I'd be surprised if Seattle doesn't win that by at least 10.
Can we do an upset pick just for fun?
Let's do it. Go for it. Give it to me.
I think Andy Dalton and the Panthers are going to beat the Chicago Bears. Let's go. Let's go.
I like it.
Why not?
I don't know. Did you listen to the podcast 2 weeks ago when I had Jeff on?
I don't think I got to the part where you guys were talking about Andy Dalton, but maybe.
So we weren't talking about Andy Dalton, but my upset pick for that week, I didn't say they were going to, I can't remember. Oh, the Raiders. I didn't say that they were necessarily going to win. I just said they were 5.5-point underdogs. they were going to lose by 3 or 4 points or win outright. And Jeff, I'm not kidding you. You have to go watch this after this, and we got to mash them together one of these days. And he practically said verbatim, he's like, I would be lying to you if I didn't look at that game and thought about doing it. But I told myself I cannot be the kind of guy that bets on the Carolina Panthers, but I applaud you for having that confidence, and fucking look at me now, baby.
There you go.
Mama, I made it.
Golf clap.
No, it's always fun doing this stuff. I put it up. So far through the first 3 weeks, my Vikings.
God.
It's really getting late, and obviously I've been talking way too much.
No, it's all good. We're just having fun on the mini weekend.
But my Vikings picks, I'm 3-1. The only one that didn't hit was the Minnesota-Houston game, betting the over 46.5. And truthfully, in my heart of hearts, part of the reason I thought that was going to hit over was because I thought the Houston offense would be able to score more points.
Score a couple, yeah.
And honestly, sometimes I don't love being wrong, or sometimes I don't hate being wrong, especially in the Vikings case. Locks, not looking good. We're 1-3. The only one that hit was week 3 when the Jets beat, who was that? The Raiders, I believe. But upsets were 3-1. Looking up.
There you go.
Gotta start somewhere, right?
They gotta start somewhere.
All right, puppy power. Well, I like it. Washington, Cleveland, book them, guys. Sam's, I think this is the second time you're doing NFL picks with us, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Sam guessed wrapping up his picks. He's got Washington, Cleveland over 43.5 points. Seattle has 6-point favorites over the Giants. And then the Carolina Panthers as 4-point underdogs to the Chicago Bears, which I fucking love that. I love that confidence, Sammy. I love it.
Well, no, Chicago's not that good yet.
No, he's not.
I don't think they will be. But
before I let you go, though, I need a defensive and offensive bold prediction for our upcoming Viking game.
Can't buy an interception on Sunday. Or at least he'll either first force a turnover, like force fumble, or get a pick. But I'll just say he'll get a pick because he needs to get 7 for the season for my bold prediction. Offensive side of the ball. Good question. Aaron Jones, 50-yard rushing, like on a single play, 50-yard gain.
Oh,
get a 50-yard run. When was the last time the Minnesota Vikings had a 50-yard run? It's been a while. 2022. It's been about. Wasn't last year.
Probably Delvin.
So
no, I like it. I was pulling this up because I kind of forgot about it before we get off for the night. But mini weekend pick'ems coming along. Josh 0-90 is leading the way with 420 points through week 4. Jandernuts picks 1 and Jay Hughesy 77s are both tied for second place with 410 points apiece. Skull JR 1 with 380, and then there's a 4-way tie for 5th. Your picks, Mr. Puppy. Dagan, Tate, ESPN, a bunch of numbers, and under the Giants pick 1 with 370 picks. So
do a little bit better.
What?
A bit better. I think last week or the week before I was like terrible, but
yeah, and I'm looking at mine. I didn't do part of my issue. Part of my issue was I kind of forgot to do week 2s. But I got 100 points this last week, 90 points week 1, and 60 week 3. So not terrible, but missing that second week might come back and bite me in the ass.
Yeah, it happens.
And then lastly, before we go, first touchdown challenge. Nobody got it right this week. Ooh. I was this close to picking Jordan Addison, and my gut told me he's going to get the second one. Jalen Naylor's going to get the first one, and that didn't happen. So we have $40 rolling into week 5. So get your picks in. Like I said, I will put my Venmo handle down here. Like I said, I'm gonna keep doing this every single week because it seems simple to me, but it sounds like it might be confusing to a lot of people. So $5, which I'm not judging.
So
$5.
can we clarify of how to put the $5? So it's your Venmo, but in the subject line you say mini weekend picks, and
Nope,
for
don't
example,
even do that.
whatever is named.
Don't even put that. I'll put an example here, right around in this area, of a couple different people. All you have to do, Venmo me $5, and where you would usually put for pizza, for concert tickets. All you need to do is put Harrison Smith pick 6, Justin Jefferson receiving touchdown, Aaron Jones rushing touchdown, a Dallas Turner scoop and score. How the person who's going to get the first touchdown and how he's going to get the first touchdown. Simple as that. If you win it, not only are you going to win this week's pot, there's going to be $40 more rolling into this week. And another quick shout out to UNRL. Still not sponsored by them yet, but go check them out. They're doing another. It's called like their university line. So they got apparel for. Obviously, they have row the boat stuff. They got Tommy stuff. Iowa State, Minnesota State, like a handful other college.
I gotta
Sweet.
check out their swag.
It's some good shit. It's good stuff.
UNRL.
UNRL. If you type in, it's .com, but it's technically .co. But if you type in .com, it'll still get you to the website. So
10% off your first order.
There you go.
Shameless
but
plug.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's
the Lululemon of like men's apparel. Is this what this is?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's like athleisure. It's not quite as expensive as Lululemon is. It's not Walmart, Target cheap, but it's not Lululemon expensive.
Or like the sophisticated Lululemon.
But it's good quality stuff. Yeah. Like if you're getting stuff from them, it's stuff that you're going to be able to wear for the next decade.
It's hoodie season. A lot of hoodies.
I am.
Well, check them
super
out.
Stoked. Yeah, no, go check them out. UNRL.com, Facebook. They have all the social medias. I personally have 2 of their Minnesota Vikings sweatshirts from last year's drops. Whatever drops here in October for the game on the 20th, you can bet your ass on buying it. And yeah, I actually have some of their golf pants too. Some of the comfiest, most being able to dress up pants and dress them down pants in the game. Super comfortable. And if you can believe it, I'm saying all this nice stuff about them and they're still not paying me a dime. So take my word for it, because obviously once people start getting paid for stuff, whether they...
everybody's getting paid. College athletes are getting paid. UNRL, why aren't you paying the cash man over here? Come
on. But yeah, work on all that fun stuff, all that kind of stuff too. Any last words before we log out for the night, Sammy?
Oh, that was a grind of a podcast. I think we got a lot of stuff in.
Yeah.
Just looking forward to another good week of football and sports watching, and Mazel tov. Let's go.
All right. Well, until next time.